Howdy folks, I hope you're doing well. Do you guys remember when I took this control panel and converted it into this? No? Well, the video for that should be popping up right about now if you want to check it out. In this one, we're going to do something similar, except we're going to convert a stock control panel into this. For those of you that are in the officially unofficial AtGames 4K Facebook group, you may have already seen a sneak preview of this when Mark posted it a few months back. While what we're going to cover here might be a little bit of a rehash of what we did for Christopher Camera, there's a few differences and a few upgrades here, so I figured it might be a good idea to do another video. Before we get into it here, I just want to add that this is for educational purposes. Modding can and most likely will void your warranty, so do it at your own risk. If you're not comfortable, then don't do it, that kind of stuff. First things first, we're going to print out a few labels. As I've mentioned previously, I suffer from CRS, meaning I can't remember shit. So if you're anything like me, you're going to want to label everything. Now, you don't need a label maker as bougie as this, but if you like what you see here, a link for it and everything else that we're going to use in this video is going to be in the description below. After printing out the labels, we're going to need to remove the plastic cover. That goes pretty quickly at 800 plus speed. Now, you're going to notice that the video is just going to cut. That's because just as I was finishing the last screw, my pager tripped, and since I use my phone to record a majority of my videos and is also one of the pagers in my house, it killed the video. After getting back from the fire call and showering up, you ask? Why do you need to shower up? I'm glad you asked. You see, us firefighters face a significantly higher risk of developing cancer due to repeated exposure to carcinogens on the job. What many people don't realize is that when we come home from the call, those same carcinogens can come with us, and that can potentially expose our family to those carcinogens. Research shows that firefighters have a 9% increased risk of being diagnosed with cancer and 14% increased risk of dying from it. Now, you might be like, big deal. It's only 9%. But for me, cancer runs in my family, and it's not a risk that I'm willing to ignore. I'm going to do whatever I can do to lower the odds. I don't want my loved ones facing lung cancer, leukemia, or any other form of cancer if I can help it. It's also important to note that 72% of the line-of-duty deaths in the fire service are due to occupational illnesses like cancer. It's a sobering statistic and a call to action for all of us. So, with that said, after a shower, I set everything back up and got back to work. With the plastic cover pulled, now we can start labeling everything up. You'll notice here not only did I start labeling the cables, but the panel itself. This is going to make it a lot easier for us to reassemble everything, especially for old Swiss cheese brain here. I also marked out the joystick connection as well. Zooming in here now, we're going to disconnect the joystick wiring and remove the joystick as well. My apologies. I know my fingers look a little ugly here. Not to get too personal here, but I lost my cushy desk job and picked up a job as a chief engineer. Needless to say, my delicate keyboard fingers needed a little time to get used to the new job. Anyway, to make it a little easier to remove the connector, just take either a 2mm or 2.4mm flathead screwdriver and push it underneath the lip like you see here to remove the connection. Next, we'll go ahead and pull the screws. With the screws pulled, now we can use the slot on the back of the joystick to remove the topper. Just put your screwdriver in the slot and you can spin off the top. Now it's time to remove the wiring. This part goes fairly easy. Sometimes the connector just pulls right off. Other times we need to pull the rubber protector off. This is usually the hardest part of the operation. Once the protector is removed, grab that 2.4mm flathead screwdriver and push the metal tab in the center of the connector and it slides right off. Then, like the shampoo bottle says, rinse, wash, and repeat with all the other connectors. With the connectors pulled, now we can remove the micro switches from the push buttons. This part's fairly easy. Just use the 2.4mm flathead screwdriver to push the tallest part of the button far enough out to get the micro switch past the nub that is holding it in place. Then just roll the micro switch towards you and it'll pop right out. Again, rinse, wash, and repeat with the rest of the buttons. With the micro switches out, now we can remove the push buttons. If they happen to be too tight or you just don't have that hand strength to remove them, you can always use a button puller like I have here, or a pair of plumbers or channel lock pliers. Next up, we need to pull the trackball. First, we'll start with the wiring. There's quite a bit of glue on the wiring here, so there's no way that we're going to be able to pull the wiring without loosening the glue. This means we need to break out the hairdryer. You only need to heat it up for about 20 to 30 seconds in order for the glue to become pliable. The The connectors are pretty tight here, so you're going to need to work at pulling them. When I pull this second connector here, you'll actually see there's so much glue that there's thick strings that come away with the connector. Now we move on to the circuit board. Essentially, we need to pull this in order to add the LED lighting later. There's nothing to it here, just pulling these 4 screws. After flipping the panel, we're going to pull the last wire from the trackball housing. Thankfully, there's no glue on the connector that's plugged into the housing, but it doesn't mean that it's easy to remove it. Now we need to pull the 3 screws that are holding the trackball ring into place. Oddly enough, the ball's not heavy enough to make the ring drop after you remove the screws. So you're going to want to apply just a little bit of pressure on the back of the ball when you finish loosening the last screw to make it drop. You can remove them both and put them off to the side. Finally, we can remove the trackball housing itself. This time it's just 4 screws that are holding it into place. With the housing out, we can move on to removing the wiring harness. All we need to do here is cut the wire ties holding everything together. Just be careful here when doing this. You don't want to clip a wire. Especially at the price these control panels cost now, you don't want to ruin it. Unfortunately, we can't remove the exciters, so the best thing that we can do here is tape down the wires to keep them out of the way. I have to say, I hate these things. The noise, the vibration, the rattling, all that stuff. If it were up to me, I'd clip the wires and move on. If you are having problems with the rattling, buzzing, vibrations, and things like that, there should be a video popping up right about now to help solve those issues. With the wiring secured, now we can pull these rubber cushions. Man, there's a lot of excess glue on these. With the control panel now gutted, we can start figuring out where we want to put the switch. As I've said many times before, I'm not a master craftsman. While I break out the ruler here to make it look good, don't get excited. I spent way too long dicking around with it, measuring it, flipping the panel around, slapping a piece of tape on it, and still, at the end of the day, I guessed at the position as to where to put the switch, which you'll see shortly. Not that I really need to show you the next part here or make this video any longer, but I wanted to show you what I did to prep and flatten out the graphic. Essentially, I just used a piece of foam from another control panel. We taped the ends and put a little something heavy in the middle just to get it to lay down flat. Once we're done, we just put it off to the side and wait for it to flatten out. Now, this is the part that always makes me pucker. It didn't help that my wife and daughter were having softball batting practice in the backyard while I was doing this. There were a few times that I had to dodge a softball coming at me off the bat.
He's coming right at us!
So as I said before, dicking around with the ruler was a waste of time. Ultimately, I just picked a spot. It's a spot that's in the center of the buttons and the trackball. This is the 3rd or 4th panel that I've done so far. And this is pretty much what I've done every damn time. Measured it, and then said, fuck it, and just picked a spot somewhere in the center of the buttons and that trackball. Normally when I do this, I score the area first with a step bit, then I adjust the position as needed, if needed. You're going to want to kind of go slow when you first start drilling here. Despite the price of these things, the control panel is very shoddily made. The plexiglass on the control panel is only glued around the sides and not in the center, so it can lift and will lift most times during this drilling process. You're going to want to drill down to 5/8 with the step bit here. You're also going to want to drill from both sides of the panel. The step bit can only get you so far from one side. You don't want to overdo it by making the hole larger than it needs to be. Less is more here. Once you get the hole roughly to the size that you need it, then start testing dropping in the button. When you get close, I suggest filing the area out versus trying to drill it with a step bit. After filing it out, if you feel that you need just a little bit more with that drill bit, then go for it, but remember, less is more. I like the button area to be tight enough that I have to screw the button in versus just dropping it into place. We will hot glue it after testing it and all that stuff, but I want to make sure that it's as tight as possible. Now, when I do these videos, I do like to show you the warts and all kind of stuff. We all make mistakes. I mean,
you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. God damn it!
This is why you don't go balls out just using a 5/8 drill bit to drill your hole. Thankfully, this is one of the ones that I bought a while back. So it didn't cost me the $350 plus shipping like these things cost now. I mean, it still hurt, but not $350 hurt. With the panel drilled, now we can prep for the graphic. I like to clean the deck thoroughly with some Screen Mom and a lint-free fiber cloth. I also like to clean the back of the graphic as well. Dust is the enemy here. We don't want any bubbles underneath the graphic. To prep the graphic for installation, I get rid of all the knockouts. For the graphic itself, I like to go with the narrow version. Since the control panel is gutted, it just makes more sense. Plus, you can line it up with the push button holes in the center of the panel. It just lays down a lot easier than trying to go over the joystick and the buttons. Plus, if there happens to be any excess graphic, you can just trim it where needed. When I do this, I like to do it as a hinge. Essentially, you're just taping down the center and working from the joystick side to the trackball side. You can do it any way you want, but I just prefer this way. You're going to want to have a trim kit of some sort that consists of a razor knife, a squeegee, and that sort of thing. If you're looking for a kit, feel free to check out the links in the description. Since we don't have 3 hands, what I like to do is use a little piece of tape and tape down one of the corners while I'm trying to peel the backing off the graphic. Once I get the graphic peeled back, I use the same piece of tape to hold it down so I can remove some of the backing. With the backing removed, now we can start setting the graphic in place. If it doesn't quite look right and you need to adjust it by removing one of the pieces of tape, go ahead and do so. You want to make sure that the graphic is straight. However, it doesn't need to be 100% perfect. The button and the trackball ring will hide the gaps so long as the graphic isn't way off. Once you have the graphic in place, use the squeegee to work out any of the bubbles. Just work them towards the unfinished area in the center of the control panel. Once you're confident that you've got all the bubbles out, you can remove the tape and lay down the rest of the graphic. Again, just use the squeegee to work out the bubbles. Remember when I said that when you drill the control panel, the plexi can and will lift up? Unfortunately, it did happen here, but that's not a problem. A little Gorilla Glue and a clamp will lock this bad Larry down. Just let it dry overnight and you can pick up the next day. While we wait for the glue to dry, now's a good time to install the Uplay shim kit. However, there was a problem. Let me know if you can hear it. Needless to say, I thought, well, that's not a good sign. We needed to crack it open anyway to install the shim kit, so I figured let's get it done. Cracking this sucker open is easy. We just need to pull these 4 screws. With it open, I tipped it over and found this plastic piece inside the trackball housing. I inspected the hell out of this thing, and I couldn't figure out where this piece came from. It didn't appear to line up anywhere inside the case. Needless to say, after the inspection, I wasn't 100% confident that there wouldn't be a problem with it, so I used the spare from the broken deck and pressed on. Uplay sends 5 3D printed shims in the kit. We're going to add the shim pieces for the most part in their numbered order according to the instructions. When you order a kit from Uplay, they send you a link to the instructions. While my video may help here, I would strongly suggest that you use their instructions when installing them. I put a link for the instructions in the description should you want to check them out. 1 through 3 drop in fairly easy. You just need to get the orientation right. To install supports 4 and 5, the instructions say that we need to remove the roller. However, it's only support number 5 which we're going to do first. The little notch piece faces towards where support 4 is going to go. It fits in a little snug but doesn't need to be forced into place. Once support number 5 is installed, go ahead and put the roller back in. It doesn't snap in, so don't worry if you don't hear it click. Just make sure it spins freely. When you're confident that it's not binding in any way, go ahead and drop in support number 4. Looks good. Now we can put it all back together. When you put it back together, you will hear the case snap into place. Although I didn't do it here, I would suggest testing the rollers one more time before screwing the trackball housing back together. With the screws installed, we can drop in and test out the new trackball from AcustomArcade.com. Listen to how that spins. My apologies for the TV noise in the background, but damn does that sound good. With that stuff done, we can start putting everything back together and installing our upgrades. Now that the glue is dry, we can remove these clamps. After inspecting the glue job and making sure everything is good here, we can now reinstall the trackball housing. If you remove the rubber pieces for the trackball housing, I would suggest that you put those back in first. As you can see, it's already been done here. You could use a little dab of Gorilla Glue or some thin double-sided tape, whichever you prefer. The reinstallation here is pretty much self-explanatory. It only goes one way with the connection for the wiring pointing towards the top of the control panel. Although in this case with the direction of the control panel, it looks like it's pointing down, but rest assured that is the top of the control panel. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, just put the 4 screws back in and we're done. Next we can move on to reinstalling that joystick. Again, installation is really easy, especially if you mark the area out like I did here. If you didn't do that, that's okay. Just remember that the connection points down towards the bottom of the control panel. or the A through C row of the buttons of the control panel, whichever is easiest to remember. Then just run those screws in and you're done. Next up is the 28mm illuminated buttons from DIY Retro Arcade. Going with the Addams Family theme here, we went with the purple and green buttons. Dropping them into place here, I think they look pretty good. With them in place, now we can flip the panel over and install the nuts. This part's fairly easy. Just hold your fingers on top of the buttons and spin the nut tight enough to hold them in place. Just make sure you don't cross-thread them. When I do these, I like to line up the connections so they're in the same direction. I think it makes it easier to wire them, and the job comes out a little bit nicer. Plus, I'm a little obsessive-compulsive when it comes to things being in a certain direction. Once we get them in the right direction, then we're going to want to crank them down with the button wrench. Again, rinse, wash, and repeat with all the buttons, making sure that they're in the direction you want them. Now we're ready to drop in the trackball and secure the ring. This is pretty much self-explanatory. Drop the ball in, drop the ring in, and make sure that it's in there securely. This first screw is always a pain in the ass because the area is slotted. My suggestion would be to use a pair of needle nose or something small to make sure that you drop it in right side up. The other two usually go in much easier, but sometimes they flip on the way down. When you're tightening these screws in, you want to make sure that they're snug, but don't crank them down. You don't want to strip the ring. It's plastic after all. After a quick test of the trackball, now we can move into wiring up the panel. The wiring harness that we have comes with way too many connections than the 6 that we actually need. We can do this in one of two ways. One, we can use the pre-connected barrel that comes with the bundle, or we can cut it and add a barrel connector with screw-down terminals, whichever you prefer. I elected to cut it. Will it add a little extra work for us here in terms of stripping and whatnot? Sure. But using the pre-connected barrel adds a lot of extra wire that's really not needed. Plus, the space underneath the plastic housing is limited, and we're adding more wiring than what was already there previously. You could also elect to not reinstall the plastic housing. Really, this part's up to you. For stripping the wire, I would suggest using a stripper like this one from Klein Tools. It really takes the guesswork out of the length of the wire that you need to strip. If you happen to strip your wire a little too long, don't worry, you can always trim it back a little bit. Once you get the wire length to where you want it, drop it into the connector and lock it down. Just remember that the black wire goes into the negative or minus terminal, and the red wire goes into the positive or plus terminal. If you're concerned about the wire being stranded, you could always add a little bead of solder to it, but in this case, I didn't really think it was necessary. With the barrel connector done, we can move on to wiring up the buttons. This part's pretty straightforward. The LED connections are on the outside of the push buttons. The red wire goes to the plus or the positive connector, and the black wire goes to the minus or the negative connector. As I said previously, I like to show you my mistakes. Can you see where I made it? With everything wired up, now it's time to test it. Now, can you see where I made my mistake? It's a relatively easy fix. I just need to pull the wiring, loosen the nut holding the button in place, spin the button to the proper position, tighten it back up, plug the wire into the proper terminals, and boom, we're good. Looks pretty good if I say so myself. Now it's on to the installation of the dimmer switch. First, we need to cut the graphic. The easiest way to do that is with an X-Acto knife. For me, I like to cut an X, then work my way around the hole, cutting it in little sections. It doesn't need to be perfect, just enough to be able to drop the dimmer in. If you happen to overcut it a little bit, don't worry, the lip of the dimmer should cover it. Before installing the dimmer, you always want to test it before dropping it into place. Tapping the button, we can see that the dimmer is working pretty well. Now we can flip it over and install it. To do that, you're going to drop in one barrel connector at a time. Then drop the dimmer in. Just make sure that it's straight and you should be able to push it right into place. Now we can hook it up and test it one more time. Due to the way the camera picks up the LEDs, it's tough to see the dimming in action, but that flashing indicates that it is working. Next, it's time to glue the sucker into place. Just as I got started, boom, another fire call. Once I got cleaned up, I pressed on with the gluing. It's not the prettiest of jobs, but the dimmer is secure and it ain't going anywhere. Providing that you've labeled everything, this part should go pretty quickly. While the deck is no longer labeled, the wiring should be pretty simple to remember in the order of things. We start with the A button, which is closest to the joystick, followed by B, then the closest to the trackball is C. Then we move on to the purple row, with the X being the closest one to the joystick, followed by Y, then Z, which is closest to the trackball housing. With the rat's nest done, now we can install the LED for the trackball and the controller board on top of the trackball housing. For the LED panel, you're going to need to add a little piece of double-sided tape to the back of it. I always have a difficult time removing the protective backing of the double-sided tape, so if you have the same trouble, you can always use an X-Acto knife or a razor knife like I did here. Secure the LED panel to the center of the controller board with the wires facing away from the connectors. This will allow you room to work as well as an area to tuck the wiring in along the side of the board when it's mounted. With the panel firmly in place, we can go ahead and lock it down. The board only goes one way, with the connectors for the wiring harness pointing towards the push buttons. When you mount the board, be careful when setting the board in place. You don't want to break the pins that are holding the board in place on the housing. Once the board is properly in place, you can screw it down. Just remember that the screws are going into plastic, so you don't want to crank them down. You want to make sure that they're snug, and you don't want to risk stripping the trackball housing. For the LED wiring, I like to tuck it along the side of the trackball at the top of the control panel, as you can see here. I like to use gaffer's tape instead of a zip tie to bundle the LED wiring together. You can get a tighter fit with the tape, and you don't run the risk of cutting into the wire if you use the zip tie and make it too tight. You can also add an extra little piece of tape around the bundle if you need to keep it snug underneath the control board. Once the wiring is tucked underneath the board, you can use another piece of gaffer's tape to make sure that it stays secure underneath the board. I like to use gaffer's tape because it doesn't dry out. You can also adjust it. It's easily removable, and it doesn't leave behind that nasty duct tape residue like duct tape does. With the LED wiring secured, now we can plug in the connectors on the wiring harness back into the board. The connectors only go one way, as you can see here, with the raised part of the connector locking into the groove. If you feel like you have to force it, double check the position of the cabling. Next, I install the trackball cable. Again, make sure that the raised parts of the connector line up with the grooves on the controller board. You'll notice here that initially I attempted to plug in the cable into the trackball housing and it didn't work. You notice here that I didn't try to force it. I just flipped it over and it plugged right in. Next up is the joystick connections. In this close-up, you'll notice that the third pin isn't quite so straight, which made it a little difficult to install the cable. You may need to give it a little wiggle and some extra pressure to get the cable to lock into place. With that done, now we can connect up the joystick cable to the controller board. At this point, if I've done my job correctly, you should be an expert here. Moving on, it's time to connect the Y connector to power the LED trackball sensor and the dimmer switch. This should be pretty easy. The male goes to the female, you know, that birds and bees kind of stuff. Now it's time to connect up the LED controller. I forgot to shoot this part, so I grabbed some extras from the basement and laid them out here to review the process. This part can be tricky. The pins are delicate and you need to be careful as the prongs can bend rather easily. You'll notice here that the white wire lines up with the arrow on the controller. You can burn out the LED if you wire it incorrectly, so make sure you follow the instructions that are included with the kit. In some instances, I found that the cable can come apart rather easily. I would suggest taping the connection to keep it from disconnecting accidentally. I'm using gaffer's tape for the illustration here, but I would suggest using electrical tape as it's the better option. Once it's taped up, give it a quick test to make sure it doesn't come apart. Now we're ready to install the Wednesday dust cover and the Uncle Fester joystick topper. In a lot of ways, this is pretty self-explanatory, right? Just drop in the dust cover, then screw on Uncle Fester's head. To secure Uncle Fester, we're going to grab a screwdriver here and put it in the slot in the back of the joystick, then give Uncle Fester's head a spin. You don't need to kill him here. Just snug enough so Uncle Fester's head doesn't spin off in our hands during gameplay. Now let's wire this thing up and install the plastic housing. You may notice here and there that some of the wiring and whatnot's been disconnected or removed. I did this to make sure that it was a little easier for you to see the work that was being done. First order of business is connecting up the dimmer switch to the Y connector and the push buttons. Again, it's birds and bees kinds of stuff here. Male goes to the female, you know the drill. Let's move on to placing the remote sensor for the trackball's LED. I like to tuck it in next to the exciter by the trackball housing. Once it's dropped into place, put a small piece of gaffer's tape on it to secure it in place. I know some of you are going to question this, but I'll say that I have not found it to interfere with the exciter in any way, and so far I have not had any complaints about it. Besides, putting it in any other location will interfere with our ability to turn the trackball on and off or change its colors. For the barrel connector itself, I like to tape it in between the controller board and the trackball housing. It fits in there rather nicely and it doesn't interfere with reinstalling the plastic cover. Again, use a little piece of gaffer's tape to secure it in place. For the second barrel on the Y connector, I recommend that you put it up against the ABC row at the bottom of the control panel. Then you use just a little piece of gaffer's tape to keep it in place. This will make it a lot easier to install that plastic cover. Placement of all this stuff is really subjective. It all comes down to what makes it easier for you to install the plastic cover should you choose to reinstall it. For my control panels after the mods, I didn't even bother reinstalling it, but again, that's up to you. If you choose to reinstall it, make sure you pull the exciter wires through the plastic cover prior to securing it. I've made the mistake of not doing that a few times with these, and it sucks to have to pull it all apart again just to pull that stupid wire through. For the Y connector wire, I would suggest that you cut a small section of the plastic cover out for it. It makes it easier to manage the wire, and you don't have an odd lump from the wire coming through the plastic cover. I would suggest taping the area that you cut. It does two things. One, it keeps the cut from running all over the place. The plastic is pretty thin. Two, it protects the wire from damage. The wire rubbing against the sharp plastic could potentially damage the jacket of the wire. Once that's cut, the wire's pulled through, you can screw down the plastic cover. Let's take a look at the completed panel and test it again. Measure twice, cut once, after all. Not that I've done a ton of these. I only do these by request, but I've built enough of them to know that I want to make sure that when they're packed up and sent out, there are no issues. I want whoever's getting it to be able to run the wire, drop it into place, plug in the USB, reassemble the machine, and play, not spend a ton of time troubleshooting. Speaking of running the wire, here's a shot of my machine without the playfield in it. You'll see that the wire is running up the side of the cabinet here. This is the cable that I use to power my control panel in my machine. It plugs into a custom panel that I built for my machine when I first got it. At the time, I was trying to avoid voiding my warranty. I was already working on customizing a control panel that would light up the trackball at the time, and I wanted to install a remote start. This way I could fire everything up with a click of a button and not have to dive under the machine, so to speak. Anyway, with this mod, I would suggest either making your own back panel like I did here so you could drill a hole through it, or you could go a little crazy here like I did. There's a story about the fans and whatnot, but we're already running way too long here, so let's just move on to dropping it into the machine and checking out some gameplay. This part's pretty much self-explanatory. First, we'll connect up the barrel connector for the trackball and the illuminated buttons, then plug in the USB. We're not going to bother screwing it down because we're just testing it after all. Now let's fire everything up via the remote start and get things going. While things boot up here, we can test the dimmer, the on-off switch, the trackball, all that good stuff. Now that we're finally booted up, let's head on over to the controller settings. My suggestion would be before screwing it into place that you make sure that everything's working. You know, check the joystick, the buttons, the trackball. While I'm confident I did everything right, it's always best to double and triple check your work. The last thing you want to do is screw it down, put it all back together, only to find out that a button's not working or there's an issue with the trackball or something. All right, let's really put it through some testing with some gameplay. If you really want to test out your trackball, there's no game better than Centipede. Let's fire that up, and I'm going to keep my mouth shut while we test it out and a few others. Testing complete, the last thing to do is box it up and ship it out. Well, that's it for this one, folks. I know this one was much longer than my usual videos, but I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something here. If you're watching this video on your phone, if you wouldn't mind, please give me a swipe and a hype. I would greatly appreciate it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you didn't like the video, give me a thumbs down. Please let me know why. Subscribe and give me another shot. If there's anything you'd like to see me cover, please let me know. If there's anything you'd like me to change or think I could do better, again, please let me know. If you hung out to the end, thank you for sticking around. I just want to say I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And as always, stay safe, be well, and take care.